What's up, guys? My name is Jakub Redziniak. I'm a wedding and portrait photographer in New York City. However, I do travel globally around the world for destination sessions, destination weddings. Today I am in Cabo, Mexico, as you can tell by the beautiful view behind me. And in this video, I'm talking to you all about posing, specifically posing couples, wedding couples, engagement sessions, things like that. I'm going to be walking you through a lot of foundational things as far as posing goes. What to do with your feet, your hands, where to look, kind of like how to build emotional connections, physical connections with your partner as you're standing in front of a camera. I know this is stressful. I know this can be intimidating if you've never been in front of a camera before. And I want you to know that no, I've got your back on this. I've done this thousands of times with so many different couples. And all of this kind of comes naturally to me at this point. But I do want you to know that even if you're not posing in front of a professional camera, even if you want to take some of these tips home and use them just for your vacation photos, iPhone photos, whatever, they will make a big impact as far as your body language, how flattering your body will look in different poses, and of course, like the backdrop, the lighting, all that also comes into play a lot as well. And that's kind of a large part of what creates more unique images. You're going to see as you kind of navigate through my portfolio, if you take a look, I use a lot of the same poses over and over and over again. And most of them, we'll start with the foundational pose and we'll kind of modify it to introduce a little bit of variety from time to time. But what really kind of differentiates each photo from the next, even if the same pose is used, is going to be the backdrop and the lighting. And that kind of allows us to set different moods and kind of sets the scene just a little bit differently. Before we start going into kind of some of the posing ideas and poses, foundational poses I want to share with you today, I want you to first consider why we pose people in the first place, because there are different photographers out there with different styles. And what I want you to what I would want you to know is that I am definitely not a documentary photographer. I am definitely not the type of photographer that focuses 100% on candid moments. I do give a lot of direction throughout the entire session, throughout the wedding day, with some exceptions, such as, the ceremony. Me and my team use like big telephoto lenses to try to not intrude on the ceremony as much as possible. But for moments like during your portrait session, things like that, I really want to make sure that we're capturing you from the best angles possible. I want to make sure that we're building up the emotion necessary to create a beautiful photograph, because it really comes down to not just the backdrop, the lighting, and the pose. It's also the connection that you are sharing in front of that camera with your significant other that makes a big difference as far as the quality of the photo. And in my opinion, the quality of the photographer that you're working with, one that is able to kind of bring out those emotions between you, whether that be through corny jokes or actually funny jokes, or all types of little strategies and tips and tactics that I have kind of up my sleeve over the years. One of the main reasons that we pose people as photographers is, number one, we want to make you look flattering. We know that you liking the way that you look in your photo makes an impact on how well you perceive us, how much you like your photographer. And the fact that we're able to make you look good in your eyes, that's a compliment to us as far as like the quality of our work goes. So that's number one. Number two, from a kind of technical perspective, as the eye of the viewer kind of travels through the scene, we want to make sure we're posing people in a way that's complementary to the backdrop or any foreground elements, so that it all kind of flows together nicely. It's something that's completely subconscious to non-photographers out there, but it's one of the differentiating things that makes a basic snapshot image versus a professional image. So without further ado, we're going to get straight into the posing. And right now I am going to be joined by my beautiful assistant, Nicole here. Say hi, Nicole.
Hi, guys.
So Nicole's my girlfriend, and we're gonna be going through a lot of different poses here. One thing I always start with is kind of like looking at my subjects and kind of analyzing, is there anything off? Is there anything that could be better? Is there anything misplaced? Something that shouldn't be there that will be distracting to the image later? Something that could potentially save me half an hour in Photoshop. So one of the first things I check for on a lady is hair ties on her wrists, which she has not had today. Sunglasses look good for the background that we're having here today. We're dressed very beachy. We have the background that complements the scene that we're creating here, so the sunglasses work. However, generally, other than maybe a few pictures here and there, I'm gonna advise against sunglasses. We wanna see your eyes, and that's one of the other reasons why I always kind of recommend that we shoot either the first 2 to 3 hours of the day or the last 2 to 3 hours of the day as far as sunlight goes. So right now it is 4 o'clock. The sun sets here around 5:30. So, we're there like hour and a half, 2 hours before sunset time, the sun is slowly coming down towards the horizon, giving us much nicer, softer light. So those sunglasses, pretty soon we're not gonna need them at all. But so otherwise, you know, everything looks good on Nicole. One problem with me is I have things in my pockets. Well, I had my phone in my front pocket, and I got something else in my back pocket here. So I'm gonna take those things, put them in my back pocket so that it's not visible, so I don't have anything bulging out over here, causing a distraction on those photos. So going back to posing here, my left hand is gonna go behind Nicole's lower back here. Nicole's gonna do something similar here. And then what she's doing right now with her feet, which is kind of like this, that's perfect. I also highly recommend experimenting with something where you are bending your left knee over your right knee, or rather the knee that's closer to the camera, you're gonna kind of bend it towards your other knee. This is a very nice feminine pose. We're like really accentuating the S curve here, which we really want to do for a lady. And for a guy, obviously, we're not going to be doing that. As far as posing goes of the head, ladies, you're gonna want to pose to your high shoulder, your chin to your high shoulder. So right now you can see this shoulder is higher than this shoulder. So Nicole's gonna be facing more this way when her shoulder is higher than this. When we try to do a shot where she's facing me, she's actually gonna rotate her shoulders just a little bit that way. Now, this might be just a little bit off. Obviously, the camera's on a tripod. I don't see behind the viewfinder what's going on. But this is generally, you know, some of the things that we try to focus on. The hand on hip, especially if you are maybe more self-conscious as a woman of your arms being too big, one of the things I do recommend doing is putting your hand on hip. That's gonna, compared to like your arm squeezing up against your body, it's gonna look a lot more flattering if you do one of these, okay? On your wedding day, a nice thing to do if you are, once again, self-conscious about something like that, putting your veil over, as well as simply having maybe like a switch pose like this, where, you know, we're covering up with something else, such as the other person's body. We can also cover things up using foreground elements, which we don't have any right now, but like, for example, shooting through flowers or a bush or something like that. Want to kind of fire through a lot of these here. So hand on hip for one. Okay, so this is one. Okay, we're looking both at the camera. One maybe hand in pocket for the guys, just your thumb sticking out, 4 fingers in. Guy can look off to the side. Nicole's looking at the camera. Then we switch, so I'm looking at Nicole. Nicole's looking at me. Now Nicole looks at the camera. There we go. Nicole's gonna look off to the side. I look at the camera. Same pose, and we just fired off 5 or 6 different photos, okay, within a matter of a couple seconds. So this flow posing, it really speeds things up a lot. It allows us to capture a lot of variety for you to choose from later on as far as your favorite selections go. Another pose we can do, hands overhead, over neck, okay, something like this. One nice thing we can do is, so right now we're very heavily backlit. Chances are a little bit, with the sun a little bit over to the side, I can probably decrease the exposure a little bit and create a nice silhouette photo. For silhouette photos, you do not ever want to be looking straight at the camera, because then you would just have a simple circle, like a blob of blackness, because you're all in shadow. So we do not want to do that. So for silhouette photos, we're always looking directly at each other with a perfect profile to the camera. That way we'll have a nice accent, nice defined line of our face here. So one picture we can do here is arms around my neck. Her foot is going to slide back ever so slightly, just like it is right now. Once again, we're highlighting that S curve. We do not really want to do one of these, okay? Unless you want to go for like 1 or 2 little ones like that. Generally, I prefer toes being on the ground. So that's one. Once again, variations from this. Hands here, hands there, okay? Looking at each other, looking at the camera, foreheads together, noses together, okay? We can do something like, I whisper in her ear, I sniff her hair, things like that, all right? Those are little tricks that your photographer should be kind of like saying throughout the sessions to bring out certain emotions, make you laugh, and kind of set the scene that way. So kind of navigating from serious to funny, in between as you change locations, as you change poses. In my opinion, that's important to give you as much variety as possible. So kind of going more from there, simple hand holding directly towards the camera. You can kind of also spin your body towards me just a little tiny bit. Okay, something like this, looking at each other, looking there, looking off to the side while Nicole looks there, while Nicole looks off to the left. I'm gonna look back at the camera, looking at each other one more time. There we go. Okay, fun shots. Okay, I'm gonna spin her around like we're dancing, looking at each other, locking eyes, even though our sunglasses are on. There we go. And literally just practicing your first dance, you know? That's a fun shot. Right here, just as we're spinning right now, the photographer could have fired off 5, 10 different images. All of them could have been beautiful, you know? So just like that. For video, you're actually gonna have to spin. You know, if you have wedding videography, for For wedding photos though, or for any type of photos, Nicole, what I'm gonna have you do is actually, instead of doing a full spin, you're just going to do, yes, primarily focusing more towards the camera, right? So your body's gonna be more towards the camera there, and you just half spins, right? There we go. That's gonna allow us to capture just a little bit more while, you know, having the front of her body there. So, what else can we do? We can do prom pose, right? No, I'm kidding, we don't do prom pose. We can do one where I'm standing this way and just put your arms around my arm. Yeah, there we go. Face your body more to me. There we go. So something like that. And once again, we're doing different things with our hands. I could like hold on to my glasses. If I'm wearing a jacket on a wedding day, one of my favorite poses for the guy for like hands is just to kind of like play with the button of the jacket. One more thing, as you can see by my feet here, my hips are leaning more towards Nicole. This creates a more of a connection down here, brings our bodies closer together, okay? If I was like this, and now she tries to grab onto my arm the same way, like this doesn't do it. So your hip's gonna lean in towards your lady. Once again here, so if there was an engagement ring on this hand, right? We obviously want to show that off. So this hand can go either on my shoulder, across my chest, things like that. If this is your wedding day, bouquet of flowers, you know, that would go down here. Very basic traditional pose here, okay? So that's kind of like the most basic foundational poses that we can do. And from there on, we can kind of get more creative with more hand gesture, hand placements, directions of where our eyes are looking, things like that. Now, depending on the backdrop, for example, here we have this armrest, right? So we can kind of get creative with me leaning back here. Maybe Nicole can snuggle up here next to me close, okay? There we go. We can do one where I'm facing away, and Nicole's still facing the camera there. Maybe something like this, okay? And then of course we can switch that. So a lot of different ideas. If one person is shorter than the other and that kind of presents, you know, an obstacle that we have to get around, I like to kind of like have one person maybe sit up, something like this, and create levels, you know, height differences that are more exaggerated, and therefore that will decrease how obvious like your height difference is, if that's something that bothers you, okay? One more thing for gentlemen, as far as posing goes, you'll notice that before I said ladies will pose to the high shoulder, which is this one. However, for guys, your chin is gonna be more towards the low shoulder. It's gonna be more masculine pose. All right, before we wrap up, I wanna just fire off a couple more poses for you guys. So walking shots, definitely one of my favorites to do because it introduces a lot of like dynamic elements. You know, her dress is gonna be, well, her dress isn't too long, it's not too flowy, but if you have a longer dress or skirt, it's gonna be, you know, it's gonna be moving around a little bit, giving us a little bit more variety there. Same thing with her hair. And of course, you know, the background changing every split second as you're walking. So we're gonna hold hands here together. So if we walk towards the camera, okay? One thing actually, walking for pictures, one interesting thing you can do is kind of just cross your feet mid-step and you just kind of like bounce back and forth. If we're on location like we are here, we can actually go for a walk. If we're shooting in a studio, obviously that's not much of a possibility. We're only gonna have like 3 or 4 feet to walk, so it makes a lot more sense in a situation like that. It's just kind of like wobble back and forth in place, and then, you know, look at each other, look up here, and same exact things. You'll notice, like, as far as where we are looking and what we're doing with our hands, it's pretty much the same thing over and over and over again, with slight variations, okay? So walking straight to the camera, that's one thing. Walking away from the camera, that's one thing there. Nicole's gonna look back at the camera for one, okay? I'm gonna look at Nicole. That's a nice shot. And as far as feet go, you know, like you're actually walking, so we'll get some mid-step shots, but my goal as a photographer is to generally try to capture the photo as both feet are flat on the ground. I don't want to kind of get you mid-step like that, because that just looks weird. So for ladies, what I always say to my subjects in front of my camera is to kind of walk towards the camera as if you're walking a tightrope, okay? That'll keep your waist nice and slim. It'll really accentuate the hourglass figure. So definitely something we want to keep in mind. We don't want to be walking all, you know, like that. For gentlemen, we don't really have to worry too much about that, but do try to kind of keep your step contained a little bit more. Like same thing, you know, we don't really want to be walking like this. Let's see what else. So we're walking straight towards and straight away from the camera. We can also do where Nicole is walking straight that way, looking back at me. Yes, like pulling me, you know, back to the beach and going for a nice romantic walk. I can kind of like be more playful with her, do some more dancing shots, things like that. And then of course we can switch with me pulling Nicole. Come on, let's go for dinner, right? So that's that. And everything else is kind of like very situational. It's very depending on the environment, depending on the backdrop, depending on, you know, props or things that you can kind of like hold on to and use. For example, we can elevate between staircases, like one person on the stairs, one person below the staircase. I'll put up a sample photo here so you kind of see what I'm talking about. The shot where we're walking towards the camera, walking away from the camera, we can do something very, very similar on a staircase, for example. So, for example, if we're about to start walking down the stairs, this works for engagement sessions or for weddings. You know, I will be kind of like holding Nicole here as she tries to balance on heels, or, you know, and helping her down the stairs. So I would be kind of like 1 or 2 steps down and lower the hand here. So kind of like there. So just if you, let's walk back here. So if I am kind of like 1 or 2 steps below, you know, we're gonna create this height difference. Once again, this is also a great idea, stairs, if there is a big height difference between the male and female, right? One more thing I'll add to kind of avoid is like the poses that we had here. Oftentimes what I see is like this hand kind of peeking out, right? We do not want this ghost hand, this creepy hand coming out, because it just looks like fingers coming out of nowhere and it doesn't look right. So we wanna make sure that whatever hand is behind holding her back, the camera does not see, okay? I'm not sure if the camera actually sees right now, but the photographer behind the camera should be telling you about little things like that. They should be detail oriented in that from that perspective. So that's it, guys. I hope this helped. I hope you kind of take some of these posing tips and, you know, experiment with your own on your own right now. It can be anywhere. It can be in your bedroom. It can be on your next vacation, whatever. It doesn't have to necessarily be on your wedding day, but definitely, you know, consider some of these things, and it'll make a difference in your photos. So follow along on Instagram, Redziniak. Jump over to JakubRedziniak.com to see my full portfolio and see what else is going on. See some of my up-to-date work on there. And that's it, guys. If you're watching on YouTube, of course, subscribe. Press the little bell notification icon to be notified of any future videos. And that's it. We're out. We're in Cabo. So hasta la vista.
Okay, Arnie. Hasta la vista, baby.
What does that mean, hasta la vista?
Catch you on the flip side. Basically.
Catch you later, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Okay.